America, my name is Osei-Frimpong, and I just logged in minding my own business, and I saw a murder in the internet. Looking here on my screen, and I'm going to show you, because this man, Mamdani, just murdered this other man, Cuomo, on my screen. Watch this.
Sir Mamdani, want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Yes. Mr. Mamdani. Yeah.
What I lack in experience, I make up for in integrity, and your kind of experience can never be tantamount a matchup to that kind of integrity. And there's no amount of experience can ever make up for a lack of integrity. And I think that's right. Like Nancy Pelosi's got a lot of experience being very bad. They're very experienced murderers and gangsters and thieves, and their experience in doing a bad thing is not the greatest, is not what I want in my democratic politics. I'm going to put on my other glasses. So, this is why debates matter. There's this canard going on around in political circles that debates don't really matter because, commercials and all of these other media inputs really cook elections such that what people say on debates that nobody ever watches isn't really that important. But you just forget that a debate performance is what opened up the door to the soft cue that got rid of Joe Biden. A debate performance is what ended Bloomberg's surge. You might not remember 2000 like I do, but Bloomberg was surging. He put in $500 million into his own run, and he was going. But Elizabeth Warren ended that in a debate performance, right? And so there's a reason why the Pelosi's and the Jim Clyburns don't do primary debates, because they would not survive. They would not survive a long-form debate. And the only reason we know about Mamdani is because of his first debate during the primary, where he talked about not wanting to visit Israel and wanting to fix the problems in New York instead, which is actually a pretty good political tack if you are running for the mayor of New York and not the ambassador to Israel. And then this debate, like he cemented it. So we underestimate, or it's not that we underestimate, we are propagandized into ignoring the relevance of debate. Now, I've said before, and I'm going to just reiterate the argument now, because you might not have heard the news, that political parties, because of their privileged access to the ballot, should be regulated like public utilities. Right, and that means that there should be regulations that reach all the way down to their internal workings, such that you have a mandatory political process of contested primaries, right? And part of being having a contested primary is having to sit through a long-form debate. Now, you also need a media infrastructure that's going to disseminate this information. But once again, this could be regulated by the agency that regulates public utilities. This particular public utility, which is political party. Because in the absence of that, you end up having a monopoly problem within the party, where elite interests then have an unfair advantage relative to the power of the rank and file voters, right? So Nancy Pelosi would not survive a debate with Shahid Buttar. Shahid Buttar asked for a debate many times, led campaigns for a debate. She just wouldn't show up. She would never do it. Jim Clyburn's the same way. Pelosi hasn't debated. I think she took one debate in 1987 when she first got the gig, but she got the gig by being the richest woman in the party, with in the area, who held the best fundraisers for having the nicest house. And then since then has never had to debate, has always refused debates. And so we could get rid of all of the worst Democrats the right way. We don't have to assassinate them. We don't have to wait for them to die, but we could just actually have them go through 3 debates a session, right? We wouldn't have elected Dianne Feinstein, who turned out to be brain dead, if she would have had to articulate a sentence on the campaign trail, or actually campaign. So we need to be honest that there are conditions to running a democracy. One of them is mandatory debates in an era where there are too many incentives not to debate, and not to have contested primaries, and not to have contested elections in general. So we need to actually have rules that ensure contested elections. In the same way that you have rules that ensure like weight classes in fighting, right? So, regulate political parties like the public utilities that they are, and treat them like public utilities because they have privileged access to the ballot, and then make sure that there's internal debates and a media environment that disseminates the content of those debates, and then let the people decide. I think we would get rid of all of the worst Democrats this way, and we would actually like vivify, make life in our democracy. I think it'd be more representative, and I think people would be less alienated from politics. Yeah, I mean, we have open and contested courtrooms because the public administration of justice is important, and we understand like the adversarial system actually brings out maybe the truth in a way that, I mean, it's a controversial belief, but we have an entire court system that's premised on the adversarial system, except we want political candidates not to have to face that sort of adversarial pressure. But I think pressure makes diamonds, and I want the U.S. to be a diamond, people. And like I said, I want to get rid of the worst Democrats, and I want to do it the right way. I want to do it the right way. And the right way is through open and honest debates. But they're not going to happen by magic. And I don't like this idea that we're just waiting for these Democrats to die as they anoint their successor, who also won't be having to go through a debate. So I don't, it's like waiting for a random mutation to cure cancer. I think it's just lazy. We need to understand that we need to actually make an intervention, and the intervention is treating these political parties like they're public utilities and requiring them to do internal debates for the sake of democracy so that they earn their spot. Then just treat it like an antitrust problem where the elites have monopoly power, and it needs to be broken up, and we need a competition within the party. It's a good market-based solution to our political problems. Like, I'm not calling for anybody to get assassinated, and I'm not calling for them to just wait for them to die like we did with Feinstein. No, make Pelosi debate. Make Shahid Buttar wanted to debate Pelosi, but make Jim Clyburn debate. And we'll find out the truth. And I think the truth might set us free. So that is my political intervention. Regulate political parties as if they're public utilities, which includes 3 mandatory debates, and have a media environment that would actually disseminate the information and the content of those debates. If you appreciate what I'm saying, which I think you should, go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month, and I'll keep giving you a quality of wisdom that you might not get everywhere else. Right? So, I was reading about minority businesses because I'm doing paperwork to sign up for a certification for a different business I run. And it turns out that Indian Americans count for being minorities. First of all, this whole women and minorities nonsense is nonsense, because women are not minorities in the same way, unless they're minority women. Right. Like, when you lock black people out of roofing contracts and you lock women out of roofing contracts, there are 2 different etiologies. There are 2 reasons why. 2 different reasons why that's the case. And now the women who do have those roofing contracts end up to be married to a roofer, would you believe? And all that money stays among the whites. So this whole idea of women and minority set-asides is a little bit trash, and is actually a racial gambit that I can explain at a different time. But I didn't know that Indian Americans are counted as minorities. Yeah, Indian Americans. There were not Indian Americans in America. There were a few thousand of them prior to 1965. So all of these set-asides that emerge, not necessarily for representation, but for justice and redress, like, they should not go to Indian Americans, because Indian Americans don't have a lineage of having to worry about getting lynched, right? So I've said before, and I'll say it again, that black people, we didn't get the parents that we deserved. Our parents would have been better had they not been terrorized by Jim Crow and scared of the whites. For reasons, for cause. If their life wasn't overdetermined by Jim Crow, we would have had better parents. Our parents would have been able to do better jobs. And that is what the kind of redress we need. That's the lineage harm. That's not the case for some Brahmin. That's not the case for some Brahmin who comes over here on an H-1B visa and wants to start a business. That's not the case for them. Like 3,000 years of unbroken whatever. No, our families were targeted and effectively destroyed and then left abandoned to the market. And that is what we need redress for. That is what minority set-asides are for, right? For the fact that we should have had better parents. And we could have had better parents if not for the United States government targeting them. So the United States government needs to make us whole. Like that is what the set-aside should be for. Not for Indian Americans, not for Asian Americans, unless you can say that something about like, you know, Chinese and railroads. But about Indian Americans, like no, you don't get that. It's not about, that's not about you. That policy, minority business policies are not about you. Those kinds of certifications are not about you. Like you don't deal with the lineage, the same sort of lineage harms. Even if you come from nothing. No, it's about lineage harms and you don't deal with them. So it's not about you and you should not profit from that. Everybody eats off of these minority and women-owned contracts except for black people, especially black men, but black families. And I think that's too bad. I think that's too bad. So I was going to do a show about that, but I'm going to do a show about Mamdani crushing Cuomo in a debate and why debates matter instead. So if you want to hear this kind of these kinds of arguments, you need to go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, $50 a month. And I'll keep doing it. So someone wants to hear me talk about Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about him. I don't know about the thing. Maybe I'll research it. But I do want to say that debates matter. What we say, the arguments we give matter. And the Democratic Party knows that. That's why they squash debates. And I think if we can get rid of all of the worst Democrats the right way, if we just make them take primary debates. Thank you for your time, and I will talk to you at another one. Peace.